Welcome back to the ASN Dad Chat. We're a podcast and community dedicated to making sure no ASN dad in Scotland has to walk this path alone.
Our goal is simple: real talk, real honesty, and sharing our own experiences to help you navigate the system. Whether you're in our meetup group already or just finding us now, you've got a seat at the table.
And just a reminder, we aren't experts, we're just dads, and this is just experiences and opinions, not medical advice and not legal advice. Now let's go on with the chat today.
Hello and welcome to ASN Dad Chat. We're on to episode 12. I'm joined by Sam.
Hello.
And Glyn.
Hello.
And I'm Andy as always. This week we are looking to discuss stimming and regulation.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, plenty to talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So for anyone that doesn't know, let's have a quick definition for stimming, which I am going to read to make sure I do get it correct for everyone. But stimming, which is short for self-stimulatory behaviour, refers to repetitive physical movements, sounds or behaviours such as hand flapping, rocking or humming, which is used to manage sensory input, emotions or to provide comfort and focus. While it's strongly associated with autism, it's a common human behaviour used to self-regulate, reduce anxiety or cope with sensory overload. So yeah, essentially the nervous system's way of handling the world.
Absolutely. I think it sounds bad. I can stim sometimes. I can, if I'm like with my leg can be like quite restless. Okay, well, there's a good example. I've just kicked the table. But I'll sit there and I'll like constantly twitch my leg, and my partner will look at me with eyes that I can only describe as as if I've shot somebody, and she'll look at me and go, "Stop. Please stop."
Been there, yep, I get the same.
Oh yeah, and then occasionally, if I'm focusing on something, I'll like rock back and forth ever so slightly. And there's been many times I've sat there and I've like recognised that I'm doing it, and I've went, okay, nice. I didn't know I did that. So yeah, but in terms of my children, I think my oldest, he is definitely more apparent with his stims. He vocal stims. There's so many times where we're out at places and we're like, if he's at a party or he's at a soft play and we're like, he's not quite in an eyes view, and all you hear in the background is this, what I can only we describe it as like a seagull scream. So all we hear is like kind of oh, and we're like, oh no, he's fine, he's over there somewhere, So we've got he vocal stims, but he also kind of, like you were saying, he's very like, he kind of jumps and kind of flaps, and that's how he kind of regulates himself when he's excited or stuff like that. I don't know about yourself, Glyn. How about Elijah?
Elijah is a vocal stimmer as well, to an extent, but there is a lot of physical stims to that as well. He's very much a jumper and a bouncer. Like he will constantly be jumping around. Like he hits himself in the chin sometimes.
Yeah.
That can be kind of one of the ones he goes through quite often. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot of vocal stims to it, and I think it's made worse by what he watches sometimes. There's definitely different programs will give him different vocal stims that he will, depending on what he's watching and what he's feeling at the time. It could be anywhere between like him constantly going over a song or constantly doing some sort of dialogue, or it could just be him just making just a random noise. I know his most recent one was Wheels on the Bus, which he was doing so much so that at his parents' evening, his teacher was like, "So, Wheels on the Bus?" We were like, "Yeah." He was like, "Is it just at school?" And we're like, "No." She was like, "I love him. He needs a new song." I'm like, "Tell me about it." But yeah, it can all depend on a mood, and it can all depend on what's going on in the day or what he's watched. As I said, I've seen days where he doesn't stim at all.
Wow, okay.
And he can go through a day where he's absolutely fine. Obviously, he just plays. He'll do a couple of he'll do his echolalia still, but there'll be days where he just all he does is stim.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it can come down to what's happened that day, how he's feeling that day, if something's happened or not. We actually had a weird one last summer, where he was kicking himself,
Right.
and it was only happened over the summer.
Like, not to be like, I'm trying to visualize.
Yeah,
it,
so
like,
he would be walking along and he'd just kind of like kick his ankle as he was walking, and we're just like, I noticed it like, at the beginning of last summer, and I was like, has he always done that? And Jay's like, no, that's fairly new. So we kept denying it, obviously, and he just continued to do it when we were out or when he was walking around, and it stopped when he went back to school.
That's interesting.
So yeah, but yes, it can vary definitely. Andy?
Yeah, so I think we all know that Ashton's main stim is screaming. Started off when he was younger as more of a hum, progressed into a scream. So that is his main stim, I would say. And it's one of these ones that I've always kind of found it difficult to understand kind of what this is kind of doing for him. I've kind of looked up different things, and some places will say things like it's because he's very sensitive to noise, so what he likes to do is scream to cover that noise. So just a huge, massive contradiction. And it can just be essentially the other things that I've kind of read, and this is the one that kind of makes the most sense, is that what we'll find with Ashton is that any sort of emotion or anything too much is just, it can essentially kind of fill his cup far too quickly with all these things, and because there isn't any of that kind of regulation in his nervous system, it's more of a way of, the scream is almost like a kind of steam from a kettle escaping sort of things. It's almost that's his way to kind of regulate himself. So again, this is probably touching on the previous episode when we talk about frustration sort of thing. It's that way of, before I'm kind of saying like, Ashton, stop screaming sort of thing, it's almost that way of trying to take a step back and be like, right, he's doing it to try and calm himself down, which again is a massive contradiction.
It's fascinating stuff like that. Just like, because it's like, I think I remember when I done a few courses, and it was very much, all behaviour that your child has is their form of communication, whether it's too much, kind of like you're saying when they like scream, and my oldest, he might be vocal stims, but occasionally he does like just full on scream, and I'll find myself turning around going, stop screaming, because it's like high pitched, and in all honesty I'll leap out my skin half the time, because it's so loud, and because of his room he's not got a lot of things in it, so it just echoes. It's an automatic response for us, because it can just be, it's not even Ashton's upset ever, it's usually just when he's happy. So it's always been something we've always tried to never tell him off for, which is easier said than done. And it's one of these things where we'll kind of touch on it later in terms of how different these things are in your own house compared to in public. But I think it's always that way of, it can be quite anxiety inducing, but also quite funny as well, where Ashton's kind of just walking behind someone, just starts screaming like and they nearly jump out their skin sort of thing, and people have really no idea what's going on. But yeah, it's one that we've had to learn to kind of live with over the years. But other than that, Ashton does the kind of usual sort of flapping when he gets dead excited. If he's watching something that he likes or doing something, he'll do his kind of happy flaps. He's got one of those kind of spinning chairs, so he loves spinning on that. He'll just sit. I don't know how it doesn't make him dizzy even just watching him. I feel like I could spew.
So Noah's found Elijah's spinning chair, and you just see him like he goes on all fours. It just sits on all fours and just goes round and round. I'm like, this can't be good.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how they do it. Like like watching my oldest on his, he used to have a spinning chair, but he disassembled it. That nice. Seems to be a thing that he can do, honestly, screw by screw, just falls apart, and then he looks at me and he's like, here you go, and I'm like, no, like I'm not reconstructing it,
like it's a Lego.
But honestly, he spins about on it, and honestly, the speed that he generates, I'm like, watching you is making me dizzy, never mind trying that myself.
Yeah, it's just interesting to think about how this is kind of regulating them, and I think it is fascinating to look at all the different profiles for kind of neurodiverse kids, and I think it's something that I'd love to look into further, about all the different senses and things, about how some people are kind of oversensitive to certain things, other are undersensitive. Some people need to wear kind of compression clothes, weighted blankets, weighted vests, and how it can kind of make them feel more comfortable in their own body, essentially. I think that it's definitely something that would help to understand your child, but I think it's also quite hard to assess and kind of narrow down to figure out kind of what's best for your kid. But I mean, continuing on stims, the kind of other thing that Ashton does, so he'll also do this is more when he's kind of frustrated sort of thing. He'll chew on his finger sort of thing, so he'll always bite his finger. But he has a lot of the kind of echolalia that you mentioned as well, Glyn, where he will just go through stages of specific things that he'll say over and over and over. So just now it is mainly he'll go through kind of all of the family's phones. Then he'll start going through, so it'll be like mummy's phone, daddy's phone. He'll give you that eye contact. He'll start to go through friends, so it'll be like Kirsty's phone, Zoe's phone, going through everyone. And it really seems to just calm down. So now I'll find that if he is getting quite stressed, I can just sit with him and just start listening through.
I was going to say, you said lists before, didn't you? That seems to
and I hadn't realised the whole kind of ordering of things. He'd obviously used to do it with his That's Not My Books as well, and he just seems to quite like that in terms of taking everyone's phones, lining them up, and then giving it to people. And it's something that I'm always kind of heading the books, or books being kind of ChatGPT and stuff now, or Google, trying to understand the kind of what he did. And again, not to kind of just read things out again, but it was essentially talking about how him doing these sort of things isn't being obsessive. It's him kind of actively looking to impose order on a world that's chaotic for him. So essentially, by identifying who an item belongs to and returning it, he's practicing a social script that he understands and feels successful. So it's essentially his way of just taking control of situations and to being like, I can order these things, so you take your phone, get it back, right, put it in the pocket, sort of thing. And him going through these lists in his head is simple things that he can understand of. Okay, it kind of brings him back into essentially the here and now. And it's helped massively just going through these lists of whether it's phones or talking about people at school's jackets or bags or shoes, which is all memorised. Or his new one is he'll like to just list out all of the episodes of Blue's Clues. Nice. He'll just love just to start.
Okay.
And it's just been something recently that Cheryl and I have found just massively kind of regulates them. So I think it's when you find things like that, it just feels like a massive breakthrough.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, it feels like you almost kind of acquire like a brand new base of knowledge to try and like get on your child's level. Like for me, I had to memorise all of the Paw Patrol episodes for my oldest, because I actually found out that there was like 3 or 4 episodes that make him just bawl out crying.
I remember you saying that.
So anytime I'm like, what's going on? And then I'll check his tablet and I'll be like,
you need to know.
That's that episode, you know. And I find it fascinating when it comes to stims, you know. But I think for me, my 3 children, they present in so many different ways. My oldest, like, you know, he'll put his fingers in his ears if he's kind of overstimulated. He's very vocal, physically, kind of like what you were touching on, Glyn. He like punches his chin. He comes over to you, and like for me, kind of towards my forehead, he will like dig his chin in, which I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'm like, ow, that hurts. But you kind of have to look at it and go, well, for him, that's him like releasing that tension, you know, for him. And then my stepdaughter, she's very kind of oversensitive to sound, so a lot of the time she wears her kind of ear defenders. She does not do well if she doesn't have her ear defenders. She gets quite upset, you know. She'll kind of sit in a corner with her hands over her ears. But she's currently under assessment as well for ADHD. Okay. So a lot of, you know, she physically, you know, flies around the living room. You know, if she's excited, she's up dancing and all of these types of things, but it leads to a lot of accidents. And that's something that we're working with, because a lot of the time, I know, like the last episode we talked about that kind of dad guilt when you're really overstimulated and you kind of you kind of focus on things that you might be a bit more lax with, and if she's spinning around, she's bumping into things, I found myself in the past being like, right, you need to calm down, stop it. If you want to go and play, go in your room. And I used to really like beat myself up over that one. Whereas now I'm trying to be a bit more like, right, I know you're excited. I can see that you're trying to get out that excitement. But when we're doing that, we're bumping into things and you're hurting yourself. So we need to try and find a way to channel that energy into something else, But and then my youngest,
Could be rebuilding all the things that your oldest taking apart.
Oh man, I don't think there's enough hours in the day for that. God forbid, we bought her Lego. Somebody bought her like a Lego. I think it was like a K-pop Lego type thing. She's right into the K-pop Demon Hunters. That's vocal, like again, kind of music, like you were talking about as well before. And she'll sing songs, and I love her to bits, but she can't hit a note. I love her to bits, man, but Jesus. I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, that's great, darling. In my head, I'm like, oh, dear God, how long was that? Was that 2 minutes?
You get to be you get to be the only singer in the family then.
No, well, I'm shocking. I listen. Unfortunately, I'm known in the group chat for being a very active member of the karaoke when I've had a few libations, but I can't sing either, so I was relying on you guys to stop me, but you didn't. So that's
I think we're obviously just used to our kids singing, so it was a step up.
That's fair. My youngest, he is very musically vocal, if I can say that. He is right into the finger family right now.
Okay.
So he's relentless with it though, like kind of what you were saying. You're kind of like, find a new thing, please, because the amount of times I'll be sitting there washing dishes and you'll be looking at me and like screaming from the living room into the kitchen, and I'll be like, daddy finger, where are you? And I'm like, here I am. But then he expects me to do, like, if I don't match the voices to how he matches the voices, we need to restart it. So, for mummy, if she's not in, I need to do it in a lighter version. Then his brother, I need to do it in kind of like a more kind of masculine version, but lighter than my version and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Would it be worthwhile for you to do it here? And it means that if you ever needed to play it to your oldest, then you can just play
tempting,
it. Tempting,
but I think...
if you want a couple of minutes, me and Glyn will just give you the room.
Why would you leave? Why would you not want to be part of that experience? No, I'm only kidding. I think when it comes to stimming, in our house, it's more than encouraged, and like what we're going to touch on in different environments. I think for a long time, you didn't really know how to kind of handle it when it was in more of a public setting.
Yep.
But I think I'm at that point now where both me and my partner, we just don't care. We just let them crack on.
Yeah.
Because if it helps them,
yeah.
Why would we pull them up on that? Even if it's in a public setting, I've seen it in like ASDA before, and like especially if my oldest is like really frustrated, if he's not getting a snack, which, let's be honest, every aisle we go up, if he's not getting something, he's gonna lose his mind, and he will just like scream. And people, and you're just kind of like, he's fine, he's just not getting a snack.
Yeah, I think obviously we've said before that realistically these are things that our kids do on the daily. So it's as you point out, like Ashton's screaming is his happy noise. So obviously we understand that, and people around him understand that. Yep. And people outside of the world aren't going to see that, but you can't just tell him off outside for doing that just because somebody else is a bit confused about what's going on or doesn't like it.
It's almost as if you're doing it, I don't know about you, it's as if like you're not telling him off to tell him to stop, you're telling him off to make it look like other people see you being the good parent, to be like, it's almost, I don't know if it's just me maybe.
No, I understand. I get what you mean.
You have that kind of anxiety of like, you want to be perceived as a good parent, so you're automatically tuned that way to be like, I need to tell him off if he's doing that. But yeah, I think I just need to get to the position that you two guys were saying, and just obviously turn the other cheek, essentially.
It's almost as if you're masking for them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh no, you don't need to be you don't need to be shouting just now. You don't need to be having your hands flapping about. Obviously, we're just going to calm down, etc. But it's just like, these are things our kids do. Like, if somebody doesn't like it, they just need to kind of deal with it, like, because it's not theirs to care about.
No, they know themselves how they can regulate.
Yeah.
You know, and our children, they know how they regulate, and it might just appear different out in the social aspect, but if it works for them, why would we? I think something that kind of touching on, I think when it comes to the screaming, we are a bit more kind of like, we try and keep that in the house, you know, but when it comes to the screaming, like the really high pitched screams, that's like out of frustration. So a lot of the time we're not like giving them into trouble for the screaming. It's more of a, right, we can understand you're upset. You know, a lot of the thing. Sometimes you have to be a bit blunt and go kind of, what do you want? And he'll turn around and go, snack. And that's him going, right, I've vented my anger. You have not got me a snack yet. Get on with it.
Yeah.
You know.
No, definitely. Yeah, I think it is probably, again, just my anxiety when you're out and about with all these different things, and I think that's where, again, the community is so important, to kind of find your group of people, because there'll be so many different things that all our kids do, and half the time now it's just, you don't even notice that it's just normal sort of thing. It's just going on, kind of matter what it is. But I think it's that way of, even if you were to go to a session and you knew everyone with all their kind of ASN kids, and then one kind of person you didn't recognise with a mainstream kid walks in, it's almost as if kind of, I feel like it's almost like defensive mode sort of thing, as if like there's an outsider here. I need to explain myself again.
It's like those Western films when the doors open and everybody just goes silent.
Yeah.
What are you doing here, outsider?
No, I get what you're saying. Like, if you go somewhere, like we take a lodge to the park, obviously it's all families there, and you're just like, sorry, like, he doesn't understand, and you are like as if you're apologising to everybody.
Yep.
It's exhausting. We shouldn't have to.
I just get to the point now where I'm just kind of like, if people like even remotely look at him for more than 5 seconds, I'm like, he has autism, this is how he deals with it. Bye. Because I'm not going to see them again.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's where I'm kind of at now, and don't get me wrong, for the first like maybe 4 or 5 years, anytime he like properly had a stimming kind of episode, so to speak, I don't want to call it episode, but you know what I mean, where he just kind of like, he just needs to regulate himself, and I would feel properly kind of like, oh god, people are staring, like, what does this mean, like, does this look bad on me? Or I used to get kind of embarrassed, but now I'm just kind of like, well, no, because this is what our children need to do. And what I think now, I'm kind of like, well, a bit of education goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know, I think you can tell people out and about who have either done things with children with autism, or know people who have autism, because they don't give it a second glance, or even if they do, they come up and go, oh, is your child non-verbal, and you kind of spark a conversation from that. But that's just my personal opinion. I think I'm just kind of at the point where I'm like, well, if he's coming shopping, there's a good chance he's going to be stimming. So
I think that goes back to like the myths thing of we talked about previously. It's like when you're out and about and somebody like tries to speak to your kid, and and sorry, he's non-verbal, he can't reply to you. And they're like, but he's speaking right now.
Yeah,
I'm like, he's not though.
I'm like, he's asking for Ryder in the Paw Patrol. I don't think you can assist him in this one.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one, because it's that way of like, because I never know in my head. I'm like, sometimes I would want them to try and talk to Ashton first.
Yeah.
Because I think it would feel just as I think it's a difficult balance to be like, I wouldn't want to come over and just look at Ashton and be like, pretty much always make a judgment and just talk to you instead. So I think it is hard. I think either way you're kind of like, oh, you should try talk to him, but then I should also tell you that he's not going to, this is how it should go down. You try talk to him, I'll tell you it's not going to happen, and then you talk to me. But yeah, I think it is that way where Ashton does have limited sort of any sort of conversation, like in terms of hi, bye, all that sort of stuff, but he can talk like mad in terms of useless information, stuff from YouTube and things, and it is that way of people not kind of understanding that there's communication, there's echolalia, and there is just that balance, and there's obviously the kind of situational, almost mutism sort of thing, where a lot of people when they first met Ashton didn't realise that he could speak at all, because he doesn't really kind of tend to say much at all when he's out and about.
But I think you can look at that though and go, he's socially gauging this person.
Yeah.
That's a good sign, because I think, something that I pride myself on with when it comes to my oldest, he just doesn't care. Like, it can be in a room surrounded by 1,000 people. It can be a room surrounded by one person. He's still going to act the way he is. And I count it more as a blessing now, but sometimes you're like, well, sometimes you want him to read the room, and that sounds kind of bad, but yeah, I think when it comes to stimming especially, how your child stims is how they are regulating themselves in whatever social situation or in home life. I know my oldest, he gets so excited for his cereal in the morning, cereal and toast, and it'll be something so small where as soon as he sees that cereal and toast on his table, he'll stand up and he'll flap, he'll vocally stim, he'll run like into his room and back, and that's him kind of being like, this is part of my routine, I've got it, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is. Elijah's the same.
I totally get what you're saying. I mean, regulation sometimes it's for us, it's trying to find that right thing to help him regulate. Because as you said about knowing Paw Patrol episodes, for us it's gauging what episode of Dougie's going to watch, because I found that the smallest thing on an episode of Dougie can spark a mass mania. It could be something as simple like we laugh and we joke, but we constantly call Elijah Rowley.
Yeah.
And I think he has such aspects of Rowley as a whole.
It's the little one that like screams at birds.
Yeah, he's the hippopotamus, which is essentially like a child with ADHD. Yeah. It's like he could just be. It's one episode where they're giving Dougie a bath, and two of the characters are going, water, bubbles, water, bubbles, and that can be Elijah for hours. And all he'll do is just that, and I'm like, okay, stop. And it could be, we could find another episode, and that could calm him down. But he knows what that episode's called. He knows what that episode is on the thing, so he's just going to go back to it. And then it's a case of, like, say, trying to find something to regulate him back down again, like something to lower what he's doing. And that could be something as simple as putting on like fish, like a live aquarium videos on YouTube. Obviously, we use them for like going to sleep, but sometimes we put them on that can kind of like bring in that, like kind of like bring his equilibrium back.
Do you have? Sorry, weird segue. Do you have Disney Plus?
Yes.
Have you? There's something. Yeah, yeah. There's something called it's like the Dory Reef Cam.
Okay.
And it's like a 3-hour long like video of like, and it's like underwater, and you see some of the like Dory characters swimming past but don't actually say anything.
Yeah.
That worked wonders for our youngest.
Yeah.
When it came to regulation, just
random
shout.
It might be a shout. I mean, we just use like the live aquariums on YouTube. Like, it's like a 12-hour video where it's just the same fish going backwards and forwards. And again, it's something we use for bedtime, but it's also something that can be just used to kind of like slowly bring him back down to earth, because he'll then sit in his room and just calm down, play his tablet, and just have that on in the background.
I think it's all about that kind of familiarity for them. For us, we're kind of like, really, it's the same episode over and over and over. But the same with us for Blue's Clues. Like, it's now Ash will want the same episode on all the time, but he'll know that it'll calm him down. It'll be a case of, right, let's get rid of the phone, let's get rid of the tablet sort of thing. Let's just sit on the couch, cuddle up, we'll watch this episode, and you can just you can almost feel him just kind of completely calm down. And in terms of helping with his regulation, that's why we'll usually go out, and it can be times where I know that some of the clubs that he'll go to, they'll have a kind of wee, I'm trying to think, like a kind of Ashton kind of help box. Like I know for a while they had just like quite a few of those That's Not My Books. They had learned what he liked and stuff, so they knew that if he ever got upset, they'd know they'd kind of go for that to help regulate him, because I think it is just all about that, getting them back into that comfort zone, something that is probably the way with the aquarium, that Elijah knows what's going to happen, he knows what's coming up, there's not going to be anything different, his brain doesn't have to adapt to a new situation. And I think it is that way of making sure you can help as much as possible, so that's why we'll always have a few things with us, just to make sure that Ashton does have something he can relate to. And it's something I've touched on before, that in terms of taking Ashton out places now, it's definitely a lot easier than it used to be. The difference being that if we were to go to like a friend's house or something, if they have kids, it's much easier, because as soon as he sees a toy that he recognises, it almost grounds him to be like, okay, I understand this toy, I can focus on this, that's it. Whereas if I go to someone's house that doesn't have kids, other than something like the TV, he'll be kind of manic and about the place, so not really knowing what to focus on.
Does he react like that? Sorry to cut you off there, but does he react like that if you bring a toy with him, if that makes sense?
So it depends. Like, so if he was going through his hyperfixation on like That's Not My Books, if we were to bring some of those out, it would immediately get his attention. It just depends on what kind of mode he's on at that point. And it can almost be certain things, like he'll go to someone's house and he'll see a toy that he had 5 years ago or something, and he'll just be obsessed with it again, and he'll want to play with it constantly and won't let it go. It could be the most random, smallest little part of a toy, and we could literally buy him it, take it home, and he would never touch it again. Ashton's quite funny with, even if we buy him new toys, unless it's something that he's properly maybe seen on YouTube or something, or like maybe like a fire engine, then
we're not editing this in, by the way.
Yeah, it can be kind of difficult, especially at like Christmas and things. You'll buy him toys, and it might be 3 or 4 months before he'll be like, okay, it's almost as if like they're part of my inventory now, I'm going to have a play with them now. Whereas at first it's very rare for him to take to something unless it's something that he's seen and understands from like YouTube, so that he can then try and act out and copy the exact way that it was done on video.
Yeah, I think Elijah's the same in a lot of manner. He'll watch his old videos, or he'll find something on YouTube, and then it'll be a case of, okay, we then need to find that toy. He went through a phase of just wanting like leapfrog toys, and he had a leapfrog laptop that he had when he was like very, very young, and he essentially overused it and burnt it out. And we got rid of it, and then he never thought about it for like 3 years, and then like last year he watched a video of it, and it was a constant like, where's my leapfrog tablet, where's my leapfrog tablet, and we had to buy him one again for it to last all of a month, and then he wasn't interested again, but he would then go down a rabbit hole of watching other leapfrog videos, and we'd need to buy a similar leapfrog laptop but in a different colour with a different character on it, or like this like 3D reading book thing that he never actually touched, which is in my wardrobe hiding at the moment in case he wants to look at it again. But it could be something so like bizarre and archaic, obviously, that it's not even made anymore. So like Jade then is on Vinted and like eBay and trying to find like this one toy. Like he went through a stint of like one of his first like really enjoyed programs was it's a Netflix program. It's called Charlie's Colourform City, and he used to love it. Obviously, it was his lockdown program, but there was no toys ever made of it.
Oh, okay.
Because it was just, that's
a nightmare.
It was an obscure program. Obviously, like it was made in America. There was no toys about it. So we essentially had to find designs for it, and we had somebody off Etsy crochet them.
Oh, brilliant!
Wow. Okay.
So that he could have like these characters, and like he used to love them. Like this, absolutely amazing. But yeah, it was just something out of obscurity can affect the whole scenario of things. And if we don't find it, then or if we don't give it to him, it can cause a serious dysregulation. We have to then have a look at things to try and change for that. And I think similar to anything, food always tends to be an easy fix for a lot of things as well.
Yep.
I know something that we were looking at as well when we were talking about the stimming topic was something that my stepdaughter is very, very good at, and is masking.
Yes.
Just wanted to quickly touch on that, just conscious of time, of course, but masking, it can be so difficult because you kind of have to you kind of have to pick up on their social cues.
Yeah.
My daughter, she can be, she can seem as happy as anything, and then by the time that we get home, her face just drops, and then she's like, this happened today, and it made me really sad. And I'm like, sometimes you want to be like, well, if you'd have told me that when I picked you up at school, we could have sorted it there and then.
Yeah.
But again, it's like a comfort area, and for her, as soon as she gets home, a lot of these like masked emotions, spill out almost.
Yeah.
And for her, it's really a case of going to comfortability. For her, it's her tablet. She's really comfortable with her tablet. She goes into her room, she shuts the door. We've got it's like a kind of whiteboard on our door that's got we got it at a random stall around Loch Lomond Shores, but it was like an emotion regulator, and it was like it was like green, come in, like yellow, knock, and then it was like red, I don't want to be disturbed.
Right.
So she's very happy at the fact that she can go, right, I'm just not in the mood to talk about things.
That's good.
And she'll slide it.
That's good.
But I knew we were obviously going to talk about it. I don't know if do your children mask at all?
So I don't think Elijah has the concept of being able to mask. I don't know for.
So yeah, I think it's hard to tell. So definitely with Ashton, I don't really know if it's masking or if it's just not masking. Like essentially, like to give an example. So for Ashton's birthday, we had some family over to see him, and it was quite busy because I said I've got 3 nieces, 3 nephews, and Ashton kind of spent the full time just going around all the phones and everything, and on the surface it looked like he was having a great time. He was doing that constantly, but then as soon as everyone left, it was almost as if like a kind of explosion of emotion sort of thing. This whole thing of everyone will be like, Ashton did really well today, had a great day, and it's almost as if like he was just staying in that loop of sticking with his order. And it kind of makes now when we look at the full thing about trying to kind of bring order to the chaos, it makes sense for him to do that, but doing it for that long, it's almost as if like he was it was holding back what was going to come, and it is that kind of emotional kind of outburst that happens after, just getting really upset and things, and it is that way where you're having to try and manage these things where it might seem good to do things and get him involved and stuff, but it can also be incredibly hard on him. Whether that's masking or whether it is just him trying his very hardest just to kind of stay above water.
I think children, I've certainly seen it in our house where it's, I think, there's a stereotype that girls and boys present very differently with autism.
Yeah.
I'd certainly say when it comes to my stepdaughter, she primarily masks with a little bit of stimming, whereas my stepson, he very much stims with a very small amount of masking. We'll take him out to parties and he'll be running around having a really good time, and like even lately, he'll sit down and he'll put his shoes on, getting ready to go, and it's almost like as soon as we get into the car, that's when all the emotion spills out, because he realises, right, actually we're in the car, we're going home now, and that's when he has that moment. But I think it can be really difficult to understand, just from my perspective. My stepdaughter, she experiences emotions, she can go from 0 to 100 like that, and it can be, she could be so happy and then within maybe 3 seconds she can be absolutely distraught. And I think normally when you see that, you're like, right, okay, I can sense the cues that are coming from your emotions on how you've been today. But then when she masks, and I'm like, I don't actually know what you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that with Elijah as well. Like you say, like he can go from like one different emotion to another, and that can be just something as small as his tablet not working properly, and I'm trying to fix it, and he's at the back of me telling me like, I can fix it. And I says, no, you can't. But Dad needs to do it. And in that point, he's so upset. He's crying, like he's screaming, like he's throwing himself around. He's hurting himself because he doesn't know what's going on. He can't figure it out.
Yeah,
and he's dealing with it the only way he physically can. You touched on about Ashton's birthday. It reminds me of like how we used to be for Christmases. Because Elijah was the only child for Christmas for the whole family for a long time. He used to get abundance of presents, and it'd be so overwhelming for us as parents. Obviously, I can't imagine what it must have been like for him. But there always used to be a crash at Christmas. Like he would get to about like 12, 1 o'clock. He'd already been up since 4. Like he wouldn't nap. He'd just be in an emotional like.
Were all the presents wrapped? Just out of interest.
Yes, but we've started to not wrap everything.
I was going to say, for us, something that we've noticed with our oldest is at Christmas it can be really overstimulating, especially wrapped presents.
Last year was the last the last Christmas gone was the first Christmas Elijah has ever actually unwrapped his own presents.
Right, okay.
Normally it's been us, like we'll unwrap them for him and he'll just take them as he goes along and deals with it. But it was last year was the first year he's actually wanted to unwrap presents that were actually for him. Normally, like he's unwrapped a bunch of presents that are all sitting out somewhere because he wants to see what's inside them. But we used to go to Jade's mother's for Christmas dinner, and that we stopped doing that about 2-3 years ago because Elijah just couldn't deal with the sheer amount of people that were there. So especially now that we've got Noah, we essentially do like a Christmas Eve thing. Everybody comes around. Elijah opens one present from like my mother-in-law and a partner, and then on Christmas Day, it's just us at home. And it's low key. Like we don't. Jade doesn't like to do a big dinner for it, so we'll just have a small dinner for us. Obviously, whatever Elijah wants, he'll have, and we get to do nothing. Elijah can just play whatever he's got new, and we can just. It just
like Boxing Day early, isn't it?
It feels like you're just going through another day, and I think that takes away the magic of Christmas for Jade, especially because she loves Christmas. Me, not so much, but I think it's stolen a lot of the Christmas joy from it because it feels like just another day. But if we didn't do it that way, I think it would just cause too much stress and anxiety for what a day could be like because we know what it can be for the worst.
Yeah, definitely. It's that way of you want Christmas to be kind of almost the way you imagined it, or even just what you had pre-kids or when you were growing up. But it's that way of balancing it. Of you don't want it to be an absolute horrible day for them because there's obviously so many differences, like things like obviously Christmas trees. And obviously we've touched on this before. And we'll do a Christmas episode near Christmas, but just how these sort of holidays, how different things are, and getting up in the morning. I know that for Ashton, he'll get up in the morning at Christmas and he'll love it, but then you still have to make sure that things like breakfast and everything is as it would be normally. It's try to get that balance of not changing things too much.
Absolutely. I think for us, when it comes to Christmas, what we like to do, because I'm very Christmassy. I love Christmas. My partner, she's growing on Christmas, but she's right into Halloween. That's her kind of festive holiday of the year. I'm kind of indifferent about it, but so what we normally do is we get the kids dressed up in kind of matching jammies. Half the time they don't stay on, but we close the living room door. We wait until all the kids are up, and then we'll open it all. And what we normally do is, my stepdaughter, she likes to go over and see all of our presents, kind of absorb that she's got all of these things, take a wee minute. She normally gets her tablet, and that's when she kind of self-regulates. When she's ready, she'll open her presents. My youngest, he doesn't really understand about Christmas quite right now. He just sees something that's wrapped and goes, "Ooh, fun, wrap." But then my oldest, he really struggles at Christmas. So what we've started to do is been like, once he sees his presents, we just kind of open the living room door and be like, if he wants to go in his room, stay in. You know, we make sure that we have all of these kind of comfort things available. Like you were saying before, Andy, kind of like weighted blankets, stuff like that. So we make sure he's got his weighted blanket, make sure he's got his tablet, a snack, a drink. We kind of put that in his room, and then whenever he comes in, we try and maybe offer him a present at a time. That way it just doesn't overstimulate him, because a lot of what we used to do, you know, we would be like, right, sit down, let's open your present, and he was just like, no, this isn't part of my routine.
Yeah.
You know, and he was getting really flustered and frustrated. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is just something, obviously highlighting again how important these things are, just to make sure that our kids do feel as comfortable as possible. That something that might feel uncomfortable to us in terms of anxiety, or something that could be annoying or anything like that, just how important it is for them, that it's much more than bothering someone, as opposed to kind of helping them stay afloat under a kind of glass case of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to put it, to be fair. I think in terms of stimming, is there anything more we've jotted down that we need to talk about?
I guess it would just be in terms of, is there anything else that your kids do or anything that you've kind of, we've obviously touched on things like weighted blankets and stuff and spinning. Is there anything else you can think of that you guys have introduced to kind of promote self-regulation? So like, for example, like we kind of very early on with Ashton got our garden done, so we have like a trampoline there, and he'll spend a lot of time out in the trampoline just kind of bouncing away. So that's what it's just great in the summer. It means that he can get out and he can essentially just bounce till his heart's content, sort of thing, and it burns off that energy, and you can tell it just kind of keeps him a lot calmer.
I think at the moment we're obviously awaiting the move, so a lot of the big things that have been given to us, like for outdoors, we've got still in the boxes in the hall, just kind of because we're getting to the minds of like, right, we can install it, but if we're going to get a move in maybe a month or two, it's pointless, you know. So at the moment a lot of that is kind of packaged away, but our oldest, he gets a grant kind of every year on like equipment for that sort of stuff. So at the moment we've been looking at, there's a website called Learning Space that we've been using, and that's got a lot of really good like equipment for like autism, Pika. So we've been looking at, like, they have like squeeze vests and stuff like that, like some really kind of unorthodox things that I would never have thought of, you know. Something that we have looked at is it's kind of like, see, I kind of imagine it as like it looks like like a car wash, you know, those big kind of fluffy
kind of foam rollers to go
foam
through,
rollers,
essentially.
It's like on its side though, and it's like
is that so they can kind of like slide through it?
Yeah,
kind of gives them that compression.
You
see them at some soft plays and things.
Yeah.
So there's on that website they've got a few of them, and we've been contemplating getting that for our oldest. He does like a lot of compression. At night, you know, he piles on about like 10 blankets. Like he honestly needs to be like wrapped like an Egyptian mummy before he goes to sleep. So it's, yeah, I find it's one of those that if it helps regulate them, then by all means, it can be frustrating, like kind of what you were saying, where you have, if your child has obsessions that, you know, they had like, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, and then you need to rebuy everything.
Yeah.
I know we were like that. We had to buy like all the Paw Patrol figures, a big watchtower, you know, and it turned out that he didn't actually play with the Paw Patrol figures. It was just the little top bit that had like the audio. So he would just sit and turn that off and on and off and on and off and on. So all you heard was just randomly in the hall, all you heard was like, Paw Patrol to the lookout, Paw Patrol to the lookout. And I was like, oh, oh dear God, can we take the batteries out? But yeah, it's stimmings are just a part of our children, aren't they? It's
Absolutely, it's our bread and butter at this point. We've tried to do like compression stuff as well. Like sometimes when Elijah gets too much, we'll just like do compression like, on his legs. They're just kind of like up and down his legs. We tried a wet and blanket before. I don't think he ever really got anything from it. But he does enjoy like a tent,
Right.
like so we've
a safe space almost.
yeah, kind of. So we give him like he's had the like little tents that he can sit in every now and again. He does try to pull me or Jade into them sometimes, and it's not as easy as it looks to try and get out of them. But yeah, he definitely, as he's getting older, I think he enjoys his own space sometimes as well. So I think when he gets into a certain mindset, as you said about your youngest, he does kind of just retreat back to his room and just like wants to just sit in his room, play on his tablet, just have something on YouTube, and just have that space to himself. I think I'd love the idea of something like you said, that she has no door. That way I'd know where he's at and what he's wanting to do, but he doesn't have that ability to kind of to
maybe
tell me.
something in the future.
Maybe, hopefully. That's definitely something I'd want to incorporate. I might get one for Jade. It might help our marriage sometimes. But no, just sometimes just his own space, and I think that can happen for many of our kids. Just kind of like if we can't tell what's going on with them, constantly being around them sometimes doesn't help. Just let them bring themselves back down again, and they'll come back to you when they're ready.
Yeah, Ashton does that sometimes, where it'll be like he'll just push me or Cheryl away, and he'll just want to go and play in his own room or go play with his toys, and there's something about that I also find quite nice, because it's that way of like a bit of independence as well. Like okay, like it's almost because we are used to playing with Ashton so much. He's usually quite intense. He always does want your attention, so it is quite nice sometimes where he is almost like, I don't want to play with you guys, I just want to go and play with my own toys myself. So and it's quite nice to have that. But I think you are always wanting to kind of promote that independence and make sure that he is okay on his own, and he doesn't have to always be kind of with one of us by his side. And yeah, I think everything you've kind of said before, Sam, about kind of all behaviours, communication, it is almost that way, as if like, okay, just wants a bit of time to himself, that's fine. I'm sure he'll definitely come and get us when he needs us anyway.
Yeah, my youngest at the moment, he kind of runs up from the living room and points into his room, because it's like directly opposite, and he points and goes, room, and I'm like, perfect. I'm like, good, that gives me like 20 minutes of time to kind of self-regulate myself, in all honesty. So yeah, but he runs in, and then half the time, like, honestly, like a minute later, it's because he's seen like a dinosaur toy that he really wanted, and he's up at the gate and he's like, stuck. And I'm like, what do you mean you're stuck? You just wanted it into your room? And he's like, stuck. And then he points back in, and I'm like, okay. So yeah, we're at that kind of stage where he's in and out of his room every max 5 minutes at the moment. But again, we're trying to promote that independence, like you're saying, and at the moment we're trying to kind of like filter him into his room at night, because he has got way too comfortable with, if me or my partner are doing the night shift in the living room, keeping an eye on our oldest, he wants to stay in the living room, and then half the time I wake up and he's just lying on top of me, it looks like he's trying to suffocate me, but he's just trying to
loving way.
Yeah, he seems to thrive off of like body heat,
right? Okay.
Which is hilarious, because me and my partner, I'm always roasting. My partner, she's like ice cold, like she's lovely, but I realised that sounded horrible. But she is like, she's just she like cocoons herself and wraps up, and like any time that he seems to want to lie on my partner, he like lies there, and then he's like, I'm not getting the same heat, so he just like he rolls off of her and drags the blanket off of her and like cocoons himself, and I'm like, oh god. But we're trying to like promote him going into his room at night, and kind of going into bed at the moment.
We're trying to move Noah into his own room now.
It's difficult. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, he's still fairly young, but we we don't want to make the same mistakes we did with Elijah. Obviously, Elijah didn't really stop going into our bed at night until we moved into this new house. So 2 years ago, he would constantly come into our bed and he'd sleep in our bed for like the better part of the night. I think the two of us were just kind of like, okay, if it means he's going to sleep, why are we stopping this? But once he moved into his other room, that just changed overnight.
It's like a boundary, isn't it?
Yeah. But Noah obviously still sleeps at the bottom of our bed in our cot, but he's got to a point where he's big enough now that he can kind of throw himself out of it, and he just kind of lies in with us in the bed. So I think we're trying to move him into we're going to start trying to move him into his own room. That's a transition which is going to be an absolute nightmare, but I think we need that space for us just to be able to sleep without a third body in the bed. That has very spring activated limbs. I mean, I sleep with a CPAP, so obviously if anything that happens, obviously like, I'm stuck to this thing, so like, I'm knock up and I like get whiplash sometimes. But if it's knocked off at any point, obviously my snoring gets terrible and then Jay starts hitting me, so I can't really be dealing with that much more.
At least if it comes to it, there'll be another room for you to move into.
I mean, I'm fine to move into it honestly, to be fair.
As long as you get sleep at the end of the day.
I mean, I definitely couldn't sleep in Noah's bed. We bought him one that's like, it kind of looks like a house, obviously the way it's built, and it's like I'm like, how am I going to get this kid into here without knocking myself on the top of this roof? But I'll figure it out. There's an update on this at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, keep us updated. Great. Well, it's kind of got to that point of the episode now where we'll look to kind of highlight one of the places that some of us have enjoyed going to in the past, and where we'd like to highlight this week is Inflatonation, which you can find at Canning Park in Glasgow. They do 2 ASN sessions a week. One of them is Saturdays at 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock, and the other one is Thursdays 4 o'clock until 5 o'clock. We'll look to share some information again on our social media so you can check them out, but I know that I used to go there quite regularly with Ash. I know that Glyn's been there quite a few times. We've also took the kids sometimes.
I think if it's a Saturday morning, that tends to be a good one for us. It's in giant inflatable place, so obviously it's a soft play, but it's got a huge ball pit in it. Easy enough to get lost in, and I think they've changed management recently because all the staff in there feel a lot different. And the manager in there, that when we spoke to him, is really nice. Obviously, because we're regulars now, he's happy. He's okay with us not paying for Noah. Obviously, because we're like, no, we'll pay. And he goes, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You're regulars. Thanks.
So just mention the code Glyn.
Yeah, just code Glyn when you. But no, it's on Saturdays when we've been there. Like there can be a case of anywhere between 2 to 3 families at a time. And it makes all the difference because it's small.
Yeah.
But it's there's like 3 different slides. There's a bit where you can fire balls at each other. Obviously, they say there's the giant ball pit. Mm-hmm. The ball pit, I think, is the staple for it because it is the main part of the thing.
You can almost swim in it.
You can.
Okay.
I've many a time have hidden in the ball pit away from Elijah. He tends to find me always. But there's a junior bit on the side as well where you can, where the little ones can go in too, and they do food, drinks. They've got a little arcade bit as well. So I definitely, Saturday mornings, give it a try.
Yeah, me too. Definitely one to look out for. We'll share some more information on that on our social media pages. Okay, so I think we will call it there. That's a wrap for episode 12. So thank you very much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
See you later.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. If you want to get involved or get in touch with us, you can find us on Facebook or Instagram under ASN Dad Chat.